started to feel a bit better about something that has been feeling bad for a long time. This long-standing website project. It sounds so puny. The website. This part, that part. It just sounds small, and it's not. And I felt bad about it. Is it actually small, and I'm making it too big, or I'm doing it wrong? I'm not enough of an entrepreneur. Hustling, making quick decisions. Almost all those quick decisions are good decisions. That's what an entrepreneur is, right? Somebody who can just make really fast decisions, get everything right almost every time, ascend the commanding heights. What I've started to realize, at least in the last 24 hours and maybe a little bit before that, maybe the last 72, is that in choosing, first of all, I feel like the beating heart of this business does not exist yet. It's like everything else, there are a lot of parts to a body, to an organism, but most people would agree the heart, if not the most important part, is as important as anything else, and in some creatures is the most important part. What am I talking about? It's not there. The website's not there. We borrow services, we pay for services that sort of make our web presence possible, but it's so dissatisfying I don't even want to use it. I don't want to paywall anything. I don't want to promote the business. I don't want to, it's just not good enough. It's never going to be good enough. It's only going to be more headaches in the way that it is architected now and has been since the beginning. Hence the website. But a website, it's just a website, right? It's like HTML. Can't you just, static site generators can just, no. It's not, I'll go through all the requirements once it starts to take shape, the prototype, the first version 1.0. And I think if you check that out when I do it, you'll see that there's a lot more to it than meets the eye. But then the way that the thing that's been making me feel better is not that no, it's really hard. I promise. It's not that I'm bad. It's that the project is bad. No. It's that what have I been doing? Have I been banging away at the keyboard, and the website's just not coming out very quickly? Like, am I just a really slow websiter? Am I just really bad at this skill that you need to? No, it's not that. I haven't been banging away at the keyboard. I've done some of that. Most of what I've been doing is sort of coming to terms with complexity or rejecting the option of coming to terms with the complexity and instead getting rid of the complexity, deleting the complexity. That's in my mind. That's stuff that happens in my head. That stuff happens while I'm walking around, driving around, showering. So many powerful thoughts when you shower. Why is that? Why would that be? Let's not think about it. You don't want to picture me naked, most of you. So as I've worked through this it's now been like more than a year. I don't even want to know when I started thinking, when I really deeply decided or got stuck on the idea that I had to build our website myself, or at least build big chunks of it myself. Since then, I've been doing that. I've been solving or coming to grips with the complexity of each component, choosing components for their simplicity and, the trade-off between complexity and simplicity, power and burden of learning or burden of maintenance, all this stuff. And I think in just the last 12 to 24 hours, I've realized it's just like moving. It's like moving far away, which I've done a couple times. And it's also like hiring hiring for the long term, which I can't say I've done that. I've done hiring, or I've been part of hiring. I've never been the sole hiring manager, because where I did it, they couldn't operate that simply. They couldn't do that. At least they couldn't vest me with that power. I don't blame them. Who am I, right? But it's like those two things where you're deciding how you're going to spend your time, or what your time is going to be like. Big swaths, chunks of time of your future life. What are they going to be spent doing? In the case of a system, what are you going to spend your time doing? What language are you going to, if we're talking about computer systems or software systems, what language are you going to be working in? Is that, maybe you like that language, but it's a dead language or dying language. Other people who might come into the org might not like it, or you might not be able to bring people in because you're working in that language. You got to think about stuff like that. How are other people going to be spending their time? But it's mostly you. It's mostly like, what are you going to spend your time debugging? In the case of software, but there are analogs in the analog world for all the different things, the considerations. You don't want to make those decisions quickly. unless you have to. I mean, if you have to, fine. We're not talking about that. I mean, if you've got runway, use it. If you've got runway, use it. The military don't build their biggest planes to also take off and land on aircraft carriers. They build them as if they're going to be. They don't need to. They're not aircraft carrier planes. They're gonna lumber through the air. They're going to take off from home base, which can be as big as we want, land in some theater, which we're going to have to find a place to land it, and we're going to use that runway so we can make this thing huge and do what it's supposed to do and at a reasonable price. Except the last thing. I don't think usually military is a reasonable price. Maybe it is. I don't know. I've never done that stuff. It's also like moving. You don't want to, if the analog in hiring is who you're going to spend your time with, or who you're going to spend reporting to you, or getting hired, who are you going to report to? Your next job. Think carefully, although you tend to scramble when you don't have income, right? Most of us. Ideally, you wouldn't, but you wouldn't have a gap, an employment gap. Oh man, do I have one of those? Jeez. If this thing fails, you realize how I'm going to have to really explain the heck out of what did you do during that thing you called Retraice? Oh, I don't even want to think about it. Shudder to think. I'm never going back. This must succeed, if for no other reason than that. But it's also like moving to a new place. You don't want to, if you're going to live in a new town, a new city, a new country. I've done all those things. I've done all those kinds of moves. You better be careful. Yeah, and you don't need to be told that. Well, it turns out the same thing applies to building your own website if you're a solopreneur. That's it. Ma89, Thursday, January 18th, 2024, started at 11:35, ending at 11:41 p.m., signing off.